Welcome back to Wisdom for Your Day, where we break down the operational playbooks of history's most effective builders. Look at this formal portrait of Milton Hershey. He radiates the quiet, untouchable authority of a natural-born business genius and a highly successful industrial billionaire. But behind that polished exterior is a man who dropped out of school in the 4th grade. When he opened his first candy shop in Philadelphia in 1876, he couldn't pay his suppliers. The shop went completely bankrupt. He tried again. He set up a new venture in Chicago. It failed. He moved to New York. Failed again. By 1886, a decade into his career, he was practically penniless. We tend to view serial bankruptcy as a lack of talent. For Hershey, it was an aggressive, mandatory training ground. He was systematically testing the market, proving that business resilience is a practiced skill rather than an innate trait. The turning point happened during a brief stint working for another confectioner out west. He refused to retreat after losing his shops. Instead, he actively investigated the mechanics of his previous defeats. While experimenting with candy in this booming Denver landscape, he noticed a critical variable. He discovered that boiling caramel with fresh milk made it softer and infinitely better tasting. That single technical extraction became the million-dollar insight he needed. We can replicate this extraction process today using a framework we call the failure journal. Here is how the framework operates. First, rigorously document the exact parameters of the setback. Second, isolate one specific technical insight, like the fresh milk in Denver. Third, iterate a new solution based strictly on that new variable. A failure is only permanent if you walk away empty-handed. If you document the data properly, a bankruptcy is simply an expensive round of research and development. That Denver milk insight finally yielded results. Returning to Pennsylvania, Hershey launched the Lancaster Caramel Company, applying his refined technique to build a massive enterprise, employing over 1,000 people. Yet he was constantly searching for the next data point. While wandering past the ornate architecture of the famous 1893 Chicago World's Fair, he tasted Swiss milk chocolate and immediately recognized it as the superior product of the future. He bypassed traditional recipe experimentation processes entirely. He immediately purchased the continuous production machinery he saw on display, intent on transforming chocolate from a rare luxury item into a cheap, mass-produced commodity. Spotting a new industry trend is relatively easy. Capturing that market requires aggressively buying and mastering the exact physical technology needed to deliver it to the masses. In 1900, he made a staggering calculation. He sold his entire, highly profitable caramel business for $1 million, channeling every cent into his milk chocolate vision. He immediately needed a massive production facility. This massive factory was heavily criticized at the time because he built it in the middle of rural dairy township, miles away from standard industrial shipping hubs. Hershey was running a project resource audit, mapping his absolute necessities: cheap land, dairy cows, and spring water. He found a single location providing all 3 inputs, eliminating supply chain friction. The environment fueled the factory, yielding thousands of chocolate bars daily. Market dominance requires designing an entire geographic ecosystem around your product, rather than just renting a standalone building. Once the ecosystem was generating massive profits, Hershey applied his strict logic to his own workforce. He operated on a core thesis that separates him from standard tycoons: the belief that business is a matter of human service. Standard 19th century company towns were grim, exploitative places. Look at these clean, well-built brick homes. Hershey intentionally designed a model community with quality housing, public schools, and a free trolley system to ensure high living standards for his employees. When the Great Depression hit, he refused to abandon his workers. He proactively launched the Great Building Campaign, personally funding new construction jobs to keep hundreds of locals employed. He directed his crews to build luxury hotels, community centers, and theaters. He prioritized creating long-term civic infrastructure over hoarding short-term corporate savings. For a visionary leader, return on investment is not limited to quarterly profits. It is measured by the direct economic uplift of the workforce driving the operation. This philosophy culminated in a deeply personal project. Alongside his wife, Catherine, he founded the Hershey Industrial School. utilizing this sprawling brick campus to provide a stable home and education for orphaned boys. Following Catherine's death, Hershey executed an extraordinary maneuver. In 1918, he quietly transferred virtually his entire personal fortune, including his controlling share of the chocolate company, into a trust to permanently endow the school. That single decision created an engine of perpetual motion. Today, that trust fully funds the education, housing, and healthcare of over 2,000 low-income students every single year. It proves the ultimate lesson of the video. An entrepreneur's true historical legacy is determined solely by the usefulness of their dollars for the benefit of others. Thanks for joining us for this session of Wisdom for Your Day. If you found these frameworks useful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep building.